is Jenny of Jenny Stitches and welcome to my new shop. Now, I just firstly want to apologise for taking so long in getting this video to you. I had such good intentions of sort of filming an explanation all about what was going on and filming lots of behind the scenes footage, and yep, the best laid plans. I think it is fair to say that time has really run away with me over the last month or so, and yeah, it's been, I would say, one of the hardest months of my life. And I don't mean that in a sort of stressed and upset kind of a way. I've had very challenging times personally in that respect, but I have worked so hard in the last month that yeah, I'm literally exhausted now. So filming for YouTube just unfortunately fell by the wayside, and yeah, for that I'm really sorry, but I am back here and I figured why not just make a cup of tea and we'll have a catch up. It's Saturday tea time. It's absolutely chucking it down outside. I'm hoping that the lighting comes across okay on this video because it is very dark outside. We're having a very big thunderstorm right now. So yeah, let's get stuck in and I will begin to explain to you everything that has gone on. Okay, so I did make an announcement on social media at the very end of May to say that I was moving shops, and I think for a lot of people that came as quite a surprise. For me, less so, because behind the scenes it had been sort of, I had been negotiating, the situation had been growing and coming together for quite a number of months. So it was a bit of an odd situation. I didn't feel like sharing that information sooner because I wasn't actually sure if it was going to happen right up until a few days before I signed the lease. And yeah, it's been quite a journey of, ooh, the thunder! Quite a journey of, for me professionally, learning a lot along the way and putting bits of myself on the line that I didn't think I would have to in the past. And yeah, it's been a time, I can tell you. So this whole situation started I think around last November. The shop that I have moved to is literally next door to my old shop. And it is separated by a side street called Harley Street. So if my old shop was on the corner there, this new one is just across the way. And I would pass this shop every evening on my way home back to the car. I've always known it to be empty for as long as I can remember. It's been empty for a long time, which I'll come to. And I couldn't particularly remember what it had been previously, but I knew that it was a large building and a large unit and it was unoccupied. However, it wasn't on the market with a local estate agent. I did, out of curiosity, because I'm incredibly nosy and I like to keep my eye on the local market, I did look with the lettings agent. It had a lettings board outside, but I couldn't find any information about how much it was, what was inside, what the space was like, anything. So I kept looking at it and I kept thinking, oh, I really like that shop. And then when I was walking past in the winter time, you could kind of see just through the shutters with the emergency lighting on, you could see that there must have been a leak in the roof, and that the ceiling had caved in parts onto the shop floor. And I kept thinking, oh, what a shame. It's just such a shame for such a nice big unit to be sat there like that. And the thing is, in our town, and I would guess in most towns up and down the country, we have a lot of empty shop units. And a lot of those empty units are owned by out-of-town landlords. And the issue that we tend to find is that because those people aren't living locally, they're not invested in the local area in particular. Often these properties are sat in people's investment portfolios and pension portfolios. And, you know, it's not like if you just owned a few properties in your local town and you felt a duty to keep them up or anything like that. And often as locals we just don't know who owns these things. So after a while, curiosity got the better of me, and in around November time I sent an email to actually no, I didn't. Didn't send an email to start with. I made it my mission to find out who owned the property because I became curious. And when I get a little bee in my bonnet like that, it's bad news because, you know, I know what's going to come from it. And I ended up going on to, I asked around, I asked the neighbours if they knew, oh, there goes the thunder again, if they knew who owned it. Nobody did. Nobody had contact details. So I went onto the land registry and found the name of the business that owned it, and then managed to track that back through sort of Google and phone numbers. And I phoned the business out of the blue and said, do you own this property? And the poor chap on the phone was quite surprised, and he said, yes, I do. Why do you want to know? And I said, well, I'd just be interested to know what your plans are for it. Is it going to be available to let? And if so, how much? That kind of thing. So this poor man was quite surprised. And it turned out that the unit had been let on a 10-year lease, and which had just expired. So the previous tenant that was in here, which was Cash Converters, as it turned out, had been in here for just short of 2 years trading before they closed their branch, and they couldn't find anybody to take over their lease. So they paid the lease on an empty shop for around 8 or 9 years, which to me is absolutely crazy. Yeah, so essentially it's been abandoned for all that time. It had come back to the landlord, and the landlord then became aware that there was a leak, and he said, I'm having the builders in to fix it, but when it's fixed, I'll let you know and you can come and take a look. So I was like, okay, obviously no information on what it would cost me, anything like that. I also didn't feel like I really needed to move. I was happy in the space that I was in. The business was going fine next door. I was turning a small profit. Things were comfortable. I didn't feel a need to sort of take a risk unless I really wanted to or needed to. So fast forward into the new year, and I guess because I'd opened that little door and got that bee in my bonnet, I'd started to think about it. So I thought, you know, I'm going to chase him up, because I had seen the builders come, and they were working like over the course of a couple of weeks to repair the roof. They completely replaced a big portion of the roof, all new guttering, things like that. So I thought, right, this is... And then a little voice in the back of my head started saying, what if somebody else gets in there? And yeah, I'd kind of, in my mind, the idea was brewing. So I chased him up again, and he said, well, we've nearly finished the building work, and I will let you know. Anyway, one day in February, completely out of the blue, this man walks into the shop and says, oh, hi, are you Jenny? Which people often do because my name is above the door. And I said, yes, I am. Fully expecting him to ask for alterations. But he actually said, well, actually, I'm from this company. It turns out it was the man that I had been speaking to. I'd driven across from Yorkshire to have a look at the building, and on the spot said, would you like to view the property? Which did really put me on the spot, because I had planned that if I came to look at it, I would bring some people with me that I trusted, that had expertise and that kind of thing. So I was a bit like, oh, okay. So middle of one afternoon in February, so I came with him and we had a look, and he didn't even switch the lights on. We just literally had a look around in semi-darkness, and it was all a little bit weird. And then he said, well, I'll leave that with you, and went off again, and he complimented me on the business and left. And I thought, well, that was bizarre, but at least I got a look at the inside. And then in March, actually at the end of February, he did send me an email and said, if you were looking to rent the property, this is how much the previous tenant was paying, so on and so forth. And I thought about it, and I went to London at the start of March on a business trip, and I was sat on the train and I wrote an email out, and it said, I really enjoyed looking at the property and I would love to rent it from you, but I would only be willing to pay a maximum of insert figure, which was less than 50% of what the previous tenant had paid. And I kind of was putting my neck on the line a little bit that it's taking a risk, making a cheeky offer, but he went back to the actual owners of the property who actually agreed to that. And fast forward to the end of May, and we finally agreed the terms of the lease. And it's been a long drawn out process to go through agreeing the lease. Commercial leases are very, very different to residential leases, and yeah, they're so different, and they're very much in favour of the landlord, and it's very risky for the tenant. So I hired a solicitor to review the lease. I spent some time with him going through some sides of it. There was a lot of negotiation over who was responsible for repairing the building, that kind of thing. But we finally got there, and that is why I really wasn't sure right up until a couple of days before we completed that it was actually going to go ahead, because we still had things outstanding, and that whole time I still felt like if it doesn't go ahead, I'm no worse off. So I had light kind of plans in mind for what I wanted to do, and I'd sort out a few quotes for a few bits of work. I had come and had another look inside and turned the lights on at that point. But yeah, so that's why it probably came out of the blue to anybody else. But anyway, 1st of June, lease started and I got the keys, and that is when bedlam started, because I think a few people came into the shop and said to me, oh, you know, we spend the summer sort of renovating and getting it ready. No, because now I have this lease, which is twice as much as my existing lease and my existing lease to pay. I could literally afford to be in both properties for 1 month, which was June. And to top that off, I had to find somebody to take over my existing lease so that my landlord wasn't out of pocket. So I had 1 month to get everything done and dusted, and they were waiting to come in. So yeah, all hands to the pump. And when we took the keys for the property, you probably have seen pictures on my social media, but I'll try and put some in. It was dark. It had a black carpet on the floor, which is just never going to work when you cut in fabric. It would have been awful. All of the walls were kind of painted like a magnolia kind of cream colour, which is fine, but all of those things, poor lighting, black carpet, yellowish walls, just drew the space in and made it really, really dark. And my biggest concern was that going from next door with the two very bright light windows to that I may not be able to recreate the same sort of aesthetic that I've always had of like light, bright spaces. So yeah, that was the challenge. So we got to work, and I am so fortunate to have people in my life that fully support my crazy plans because I spent quite a lot of time debating with myself whether to actually go with it and do it at all. As I mentioned, I was at a comfortable place with the business next door. I could have stayed where I was at a very low risk because I had an excellent landlord who would never have held me to anything if I wanted to come out of my lease. You know, a lovely property, very minimal overheads in that sense, but I figured if I stay there like that, that's all I will ever have. And the number of times that I'd had people in the shop and felt like we were all falling over each other, or I couldn't add new product lines, or yeah, just so many things. I didn't have any storage space. I didn't have a separate space to go off and sew in or do content creation or anything like that. And I would get inquiries regularly for, could you sell this, or could you do classes, or would you consider that? And I just could not do anything more than I was doing already. So I figured either my business stays the same, which is fine, but if I do want more for it, then I have to take this chance. So I was quite worried about it, and my husband really, in the end, he just kind of said to me, you've got to go for it. If you don't go for it, you will regret it. And here we are. So, but I am so grateful to both James, or Mr. Stitches as you know him, and my mum, or Mummy Stitches as you know her, for their support over the last month, because they have both been incredible. Mum has kept the business running behind the scenes. She manned the shop for 2 weeks by herself effectively until we closed, and she sent out everybody's online orders in that time. She was an absolute trooper, and helped me out with so many childcare situations because I needed to be here all the time working. And James was an absolute angel. He changed all of the light fittings that you can see behind us. I think there was about 24 in total, 22, 24 LED panels that all got put in. He installed all of those. He installed this beautiful light grey flooring for us, which took ages. so much work, and yeah, just incredible. And I should probably also shout out as well to some other people that have been really supportive, in particular Paul from Barrow Bid, who technically works for me as I'm a Barrow Bid director, but he gave me so much useful advice during all of my negotiations and has been very supportive, and he helped James to move the signs from one shop to the other. And yeah, just truly angelic people in my life. And also Matt from Grind Fighters, who came and washed down all the pavements outside, and all of the lovely customers that were offering their support. It really did mean a lot, because although I am kind of a bit of a one-woman show in this respect, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, and that mental support as well it means the world, you know, having people having your back when you're unsure. And usually I have trained myself to be quite a confident person, but I would say that this is the first time I've really suffered with imposter syndrome, and I found that really difficult in the last few months, and I'm still struggling with it now. There's still decisions that I'm making today, this week, where I'm sat here thinking, who do you think you are? Like, this is far too fancy for you. But we will grow and we will adapt, and I will get used to this, because yeah, I never had a business plan. When I started this business, I never had a plan. I literally started the market stall and I was like, let's see where it goes. And for someone of my professional background, that's not good. That's not how you're supposed to do it. So I was always curious to see where the journey would take me, and it's taken me beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I'm excited to see what the future holds. So yeah, on that note, after waffling to you for ages, if you've made it this far, you're a trooper, I will try and show you some of the actual shop itself. I think it's fair to say it's a purple palace. Purple is my favourite colour. It's been in my brand since the very beginning, purple and pink all the way. And I was really inspired when we went down to the Stitch Festival by all of the colourful shop fronts, and in Islington everything was really bright and cute, lots of stylish shop fronts, all in nice colours. And I figured, you know, I could have another grey shop like all of the other shops up and down the street, or I could have a purple shop, so purple it is. Okay, so I'm going to grab the camera and take you for a little walk. And I should say, I have a different mug today, and that is thank you to Sally Ann at Gutterman, who brought these for me and Mummy Stitches as a little gift last week. So, okay, here we go. So, this is the view as you walk in through the door, and as you can see, it is a very big open rectangular space, and when we'd finished flooring it, we did have a little dance around because it is like a massive ballroom. We did remark at one point that it would have made a really good bar, but we move on. So I'll start by showing you personally what is my favourite area of the shop. We do still have bits and pieces of work to do, so please ignore this missing grill here. I need to go and get one. But this little area over here is a seating area. I wanted to keep things nice and relaxed and open feeling, so that when you're coming in, there's a space to chill, to look at. We've got some sewing magazines out here. And in future, we will have sort of more fabric swatches and things to browse. Touch on that more later. But yes, a very sort of relaxed space. And at the moment, this is just housing this unit that we've put together over here from IKEA. And lots of flowers, which I was treated to, which are still going strong after a week. They look beautiful. These were from a supplier. And I did get some houseplants, which is still alive after a week. That's good. And I have got this cool little Instagram counter, which I love. So this wallpaper, my mum kindly hung for me. She is the queen of wallpapering. And I just wanted to soften off this corner so it wasn't just all stark white, make it a little bit more homely. And the plan is to get some pictures hung up on here once I've managed to get them printed and framed, but all in good time. And as you can see, quite a bit of glass on the go here and quite a lot of purple paint work, which took a long time for me to do, but so worth it in the end. That's just my tripod, never mind that. But this is the view, and in the near future these buildings over here are actually being demolished, and this area is going to be re-landscaped with sort of trees and things like that, so very excited to see how that turns out. And you can see through there into the other window on the other side of the doorway, which houses are like a self-contained window display, which is really handy, which completely separates off the window display, which is fab. So my plan for this area is to actually get a coffee machine. So if you're coming in, you can get a tea or a coffee and relax, which is going to be great for sort of partners, family members, people that want to take the time, or if you want to just come in, buy a coffee and read a sewing mag and just hang out. That's what we want you to do. We want this space to be social. We want you to enjoy being here and to hang out, and yeah, that's the vibe. So I'm going to take you along this wall to start with, and this is the pattern gallery. So it's beautiful. It's a little bit gappy at the moment because we've had a few customers in for patterns today. They've been going down a treat. But yeah, I hung all these acrylic racks, and James and I had a bit of a crash course in how to hang slat wall boarding, which was fun. I should say that all of these walls took 2 coats of emulsion and it took forever. And then we move on to the fabric shelves, which are very similar to how they were next door, but more of them. So I think maybe I had 9 of these units in the old shop, and I think I've got around 12 now, so that's fab. I've got my familiar ladder shelves, which were a prominent feature in the last shop, and now we can walk all the way around those, and you can see we've got some gorgeous new arrivals on here. Try not to linger too much on the fabric. We'll talk about that another day, I think. And yeah, you can sort of look back into that corner there and get a feel for how that fits together. The festoon lights were a last minute addition because I was panicking that things didn't feel quite vibey enough. So I always end up last minute buying something out of a panic. But yes, on to the fabric, and I won't linger too long over the individual fabrics, but needless to say, we've got everything sort of arranged by kind of type. So you've got your cotton lawns up here, we've got viscose, we've got some organic cotton plains down here, linens, double gauze, more viscose, we've got satines, poplins, nice collection of denim, some polyesters and crepes, more cottons, and moving into some more spangly things up here, ready for the party season, which won't be that far away. And then we're moving into sort of suitings and jerseys, all of your good stuff that we love. Lining and my familiar little rainbow of jersey, which I love to organise, along with the coordinating ribbons. And that is the fabric shelves. I had a plan to kind of separate them and put some on one side of the shop and some on the other, but it actually turned out that when we put them all in together like that, we were like, wow, what an impact. So over in this corner, we've got some interfacing, and this stand was in the window at the old shop, and it's just in here, just basically just screening the loo. Because the loo is in there, and it did feel a little bit exposed, so we decided to put that there, and those zips may not stay there, it's just a case of putting something up. So at this end of the shop, things are going to be a little bit more fluid. This is not a final setup by any means, but we have a selection of tables and chairs up here, and the intention is over the next few months to create like a workshop space essentially, so we can have events, meetups, socials, hopefully some classes, some guest teachers coming in, that kind of thing. But there's a lot of work for me to do there in terms of planning all that and thinking about how I want to organise this space to make it work best, and it is sadly devoid of electricity. There's not very many power sockets in here at all, so at the minute I've got my machines plugged in and there's just an extension lead, which is not ideal, so it's not suitable for workshops yet. We need to get an electrician to come and put some power in up here for us, but I've just popped up my banner from the shows. And yeah, the last couple of days I've just been sewing down here and it's been lovely. Really, really nice that I can see the whole shop whilst I'm working. So that's my view. And yeah, after a month of not sewing, it's been amazing. Look, I'll just quickly show you. These are my Dawn jeans. Can you see the fly? I'm quite pleased about that. Anyway, I'm moving into this corner. This is kind of our admin and order packing area. This is currently where we're storing all of our packaging bags, and you'll recognise these if you've ever ordered from us online. Some click and collect orders there. All the bits we need for the post, and then we've got a little desk area with all the printers and another table which is just sort of free use. We're using it at the moment for packing orders, for folding A0 prints, my massive cup, and that of course is followed with the A0 printer, which seems very happy up here, and there's some lesser spotted power sockets. So up here as well, I've got a couple of stands which I use for the shows, which are housing some of the wools and the coatings, some of the things that are a bit bulky, and we've got some things on rolls over here, including these lovely leverettes, which would be beautiful for making bags. They've just come in, and yeah, over in the middle here we've created another little sort of floating display, and this has got some furnishing fabrics on it, and that is the other key product line that I'm wanting to add in. So we don't have really any shops that sell furnishing fabric now, so my intention is to start doing that, and I'm in the process of speaking to some suppliers and reviewing some samples. I have put some of the samples out just for display, so I can talk to customers about that at the moment. But yes, that's the plan, and these are amazing. So this is going to change, it will develop, and more stuff will be added over time. And coming down this side, some cotton poplin in a bucket there, got all of the bias tapes and buttons. These will be familiar from next door, and the zip stand, which are just kind of in the middle of the room, so you can walk all the way around them. And then we have Prim over here, again looking a little bit thin on the ground because we've been really busy, which is lovely, and some larger rolls of fabric there. Hi! And then we've actually got a mirror out in the shop permanently now, which is lovely, so if you want to check how your fabric looks against your skin tone, you can do that over here. But I do keep catching myself in the mirror whilst I'm cutting, which is a bit disturbing. And then moving on into the rest of the Habby, we've got Gutterman, all of our beautiful shades together. These fab new Prim tools, which have just come out. Obsessed. And then we've got your till area. And again, there's just so much more work to do on merchandising and products to add on here. But it's lovely to have that full space available for actually serving customers rather than it housing my computer and the printers and everything. And finally over here we've got a haberdashery wall. Again, more slat walling that we've hung. We've got your quartz moon, we've got all of our trims and draw cards. We've got some curtain tapes, which is a new addition. A beautiful new range of ribbons, which I'm in the process of adding to the website. Some embroidery supplies, and you've got your quartz moon, quartz cometa, and some larger items up there. Okay, apologies for the break in that there. I've just been encountered by a very wet Mr. Stitches who's come to pick me up. So one of the other things that I did want to add in was embroidery supplies. I am fascinated by embroidery. It's not something that I know a lot about myself, but I get asked a lot for the DMC shades. So we've got a full stand here, which I absolutely adore. I've always wanted one of these stands and I can't even tell you why. But there we go. So we've got some hoops to go with, and we will be expanding that range in time. And then finally on this little wall over here, we've got some bag making supplies. Again, we're going to be expanding this out over time. Sold some bag patterns this week actually, so that's why they're looking a bit thin on the ground. And then I'll take you into the window display, and you can see we've just got some little bits and pieces out here, some vintage things, and that's what we've got in the window at the moment, which was very last minute, so not the most coordinated display, but it was about the best I had time for. And that's my Mabel dress and some beautiful orange grove viscose, which is new. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tour of the new space, and I'm sure you'll be getting to see lots of it in the coming months. There he is. But yes, lots more to come. Lots of new developments. I'm sure it will change and flow over time. It's still hiding over there. Oh, and the other thing that I actually didn't cover was the cutting table. It's the same units that we had next door with all the patterns inside. And why are you hiding? This lovely man has put them all back together for us, and we've put some new tops on, and he's just installed some handy kitchen cabinets that I can stash things away in. So it's a much bigger cutting surface. And there you have it. Should we go home and get some tea?
Definitely.
There we go. Everybody's tired. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe, and I will catch you soon. And thank you everybody for all of your support.